Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe, the host of this show, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I welcome you once again. We try to bring you energizing, life-changing information each and every time to enrich your life. And I've brought a media practitioner who's also an entrepreneur and a speaker in Mr. Moroka, Phenyo Moroka. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have the honors in terms of a more thorough media introduction, and also if you could share your background professionally and otherwise.
Well, thank you first of all for having me. As I was saying before we went live, I prefer to be on the other side where you're asking questions,
Yes.
But it's also all right to be on this side. Phenyo Moroka, as you've said, I'm a media practitioner, media entrepreneur. In terms of my professional background, I've studied human resource management. I did a BA in human resource management. That's my undergrad at the University of Stellenbosch. I then did a postgraduate diploma in advertising and marketing communications management. And then, I've been working in the country in the private sector since 2005 and as an entrepreneur since 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been quite a long and exciting and tumultuous, if I could call it that, journey since I decided to go the route entrepreneurship back in 2007.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about PMI Media. You are the MD of that organization.
Yeah, PMI Media is a small business it's a media business, really, but the two focus areas, we're an advertising and communications business. Our one line of business is out-of-home advertising or billboards. We have a few billboards in a few areas around the country. And then we also are suppliers of promotional and corporate wear and merchandise. We're also just about to launch a new side to the business, so you'll be the first to know. Actually, I haven't even announced it.
Wow.
We're going to be supplying.
You heard it here first.
We're going to be supplying audio-visual communication products.
Wow.
So we supply anything from a podcast mic and tripods for the cameras to more technically sophisticated, if you will.
Including cameras themselves.
We're going to be supplying, we can automate a boardroom and make it video conferencing ready. So we've got the interactive screens, we've got the interactive cameras and all the components that make it work. But that's something we've recently just agreed with a supplier. So that's going to be coming online very shortly. But yeah, in a nutshell, it's a media business.
Sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Washington Mandela Fellowship that you were part of at some point. The Barack Obama's initiative, Young African Leaders.
Yeah, the Mandela Washington Fellowship, that's a flagship program. Yeah, the Young African Leaders Initiative.
Yes.
So what the Young African Leaders Initiative is that it was the brainchild of former President Barack Obama. And I think because of his roots in Africa, he had a really soft spot for Africa and for developing Africa's youth. They always say that the demographic dividend is where the strength of Africa is. So he had a big passion, and I suppose still has a big passion for the youth. And basically what it was a leadership development program, or still is a leadership development program, because it still runs. Unfortunately, this year's cohort, I believe they had to attend virtually. Due to COVID. But in our time, COVID didn't exist. So we had the pleasure and privilege of attending 6 6 weeks of intense academic and industry training in the US. There were 3 tracks: business and entrepreneurship, civic leadership, and I think public service or public health.
Okay.
I stand to be corrected. So I was on the business and entrepreneurship track at Northwestern University, and really that was it still is one of the most enriching and life-changing experiences of my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was played a very big part, I think, in who I am right now, and who I still aspire to grow into, both as a man and as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Now, the essential traits of entrepreneurship is grit, which covers perseverance and resilience and all that. What role, if any, did that play in your life, and how does it still play a role in your business life?
Grit and perseverance are 2 of the 3 main reasons why I'm still here today, why I'm sitting here today. My entrepreneurial journey, as I said, has been colorful, exciting, tumultuous. And if it wasn't for grit and perseverance, I wouldn't be sitting here with you having this conversation, for sure. So they've played a massive, massive role. In entrepreneurship, you get beat down. You have to get up, you get beat down, you make bad mistakes, you make silly mistakes that are costly. And without grit and perseverance, and I think the third one, as people, is support. The support of your loved ones.
Yes.
Grit, resilience, support, those 3. I can definitely tell you without a doubt, if I hadn't had those 3 and I didn't still have those 3, I for sure wouldn't be here with you now.
Is there 1 or 2 that stands out that you want to share with the viewers?
Lessons from the
experiences that really
look, there's a big one, and I've spoken about it a lot during my years when I was on radio. And this was the first business I ever started. This was a mobile distribution business. I was the authorized distributor of a certain mobile brand. And when I started that business was at a time where I think the economy was doing really well. And it was a business that did well from the get-go. You run the business in the first month of trading and you're doing revenues of 150,000 pula, right? Per month. First month. I was 24 at the time. And I think I was at that stage of my life where I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And someone has said to me, when you don't know what you don't know, that's when you're most dangerous to yourself and to everybody else. So at that time, I didn't know what I didn't know, and the business is running for a few months, and we're doing hundreds of thousands a month. Every now and again, I was dealing with the network, so every now and again, I would get an order for a couple of million pula worth of cell phones, a few million pula worth of cell phones. So I thought I was rich, and in my youth and in my inexperience, I started acting like I was rich. It catches up with you very quickly. In my instance, it was the global financial crisis of 2009, 2010 is when it really caught up. There was a letter that was sent from the brand's global headquarters in Asia. And the brand says every distributor that owes us money must pay us immediately before they get more stock. In the shop, I'm running out of stock. I had a nice revolving credit at the time of $100,000 US. So I knew if I kept it at 50, I could keep the stock coming in, and I'd live la vida. It would be great. But then this thing came in, and now I'm sitting on a debt of 500,000 pula that I need to pay.
Wow.
And I go to the bank. You have great relationships with the banks until it hits the fan. Then they say, but Mr. Moroka, if we give you this 500,000, how are we going to know that that money is going to come back? Because this is 500,000 for stock you've already purchased and sold. What you've done with the money, we don't know. And that
they didn't ask for security.
Yeah, and that was at that time the beginning of the end, really, for that business, because now I was stuck in a position where I don't have the 500,000 to get stock. The shop is running out of stock. What am I going to do? And the long and short of it is we had to, my partners and I, we had to wind down the business because who was going to give us 500,000 and who was going to give us the stock? So that was my very first business, as I say, and that was the biggest lesson
Wow.
that I learned in business.
No,
You know,
it's not yours.
You know, the business's money is not to go and enjoy life in Joburg and, you know, go shopping and, you know.
I was going to ask you
yeah.
this question, that, you know, the lessons learned in terms of knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently?
Knowing what I know now, and again, you know, like I was saying, I was at a point where I didn't know what I didn't know. Definitely, you know, Media business. If I had to go back and do it again, I think the business would definitely be alive today. I would have kept the business's money to do the business's things, and my salary to be my salary to live my life. You know, and I mean, I was at the time paying myself pretty well because the business could afford it.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, I thought I was rich.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the business was rich, if you will.
You probably have
you know.
had kept some reserves, isn't it?
Well, look, you know, the reserves were there, but they were never really enough to get us out of the hole that we were in. You know, and it's one of those things. You know, that for me is the biggest lesson that I have learned in business.
Yeah.
Because of that you know, comedy of errors, if I should call it that. So I always tell people, I think, you know, in terms of business success, I'm not quite where I want to be, but one thing I know is I can tell you with great deal of confidence what not to do to build a successful business. You know, because I have that first-hand experience.
I can tell from our conversation that you believe in continuous improvement, and that you are the kind of guy who's constantly seeking knowledge and new information. So tell us how you develop this mindset of being curious and being a continuous learner.
I think the curiosity is something that's ingrained in me, that I was possibly born with. But, you know, I have to also credit my father, who from a very young age pushed us to try and read. You know, he saw the importance of continuous development. But I think it also became a thing where, as I learned more and I became more aware, I started to realize, wow, I'm getting better. You know, the more I learn, the better that I become. And it just became one of those things that fed into itself. Learn more, read more, see more, ask more, and, you know, you become enriched and you start to be more aware of who you are, more aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are, and more aware of how to be a better business person, how to be a better person. So the curiosity's always been there, but, you know, the fire was lit by my father, and I think just life's experience has taken me on this journey where I just want to constantly be better. Yeah.
Are there any books or movies that impacted you significantly in this regard?
Yeah, the first book that stands out for me is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. My father still swears by that book. That's the first book he bought for me. There's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon.
By Clausen, I know about that book. Yeah.
Richest Man in Babylon. My mother bought me that one. So I think I've had really, really supportive parents. That book is out there. And then a book that really I came across, or was part of our reading syllabus when I was on the Mandela Washington Fellowship, is a book called True North by Bill George. And I think that's the book, or that's the period in my life where I really reached that tipping point. You know, that was the point when I got to look back at all the mistakes I've made, particularly as an entrepreneur, and own those mistakes and really start to interrogate myself and see where the mistakes were and where I could improve it. So I think of those three, I'd have to say the one that stands out the most for me is that book, True North.
Yes.
Because, you know, it talks about having to interrogate yourself and what you stand for and what you believe in and what your values are, and let those things be the things that guide you as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a person. You know, find your true north is really what the book's about, and then follow it, regardless of what that true north is.
Is that about finding your destiny?
I think it's about finding the you that gets onto the path of finding your destiny. Because I think you can't find your destiny if you haven't found you.
Okay.
You need to know who you are. You need to be very self-aware to effectively get on the path and start walking towards your destiny.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. There was a time, one of the things that stick out from your biography is I mean, from your profile, is the part when you were with Shell.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience, ambassador of Shell, I believe.
Yes. I was ambassador of Shell for a total period of, I think it might be almost 5 years. From about, 4 years, 2014 to 2018-ish. And that was a pretty significant moment in my life because, being in the media at the time, in broadcast media, there was just always this thing, and I think that thing is, media people can't live well. The media doesn't pay well, and journalists are not rich, and journalists are not celebrated like they are in the developed world. And part of my thing was always, I want to show people that when you follow this line of work, you can live very, very well. So that's what was significant about it, is that you can break boundaries. For me, it was a groundbreaking thing, and I think I was the very first person in the country to get like a proper endorsement deal as a broadcaster. There'd been guys like Bovi, they'd gotten deals before with the networks, but just as a broadcaster who wasn't an entertainer or a celebrity by any means, just by putting in the work and doing your work the way you do it and you're strong with it, you can then be connected with such a strong international brand. So that for me was pretty significant, because it told me that it doesn't matter what you do where you are, if you focus on the work, the results will come.
Did you have a ripple effect in terms of impacting your approach to entrepreneurship, and how did it affect that?
I think it helped put things into perspective in terms of how one is to approach their dreams, their entrepreneurial dreams. One of the things I still absolutely want to do is to be involved in the petroleum business. And the insights that it gave me into the business made me realize that, okay, it's important to step back and start small. Start small and build your way towards those things, because it's a very capital intensive business. And one of the things, when I went in there, I thought, yes, this is it. My filling station dream is going to happen. I'm working with Shell. This is going to be easy. And I got in and I realized, whoa, this is...
tough stuff.
This is tough stuff here, and you have to put out 10, 20 million pula before you can even say you can run a filling station, So I think that was the big realization that, okay, hold on, you're doing well, but come back to yourself and pace yourself. You'll eventually get there. So I think, again, it was a light bulb moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you the brand ambassador, and what did that entail?
I was their brand ambassador. A large part of what I did was to deal with the forecourt staff. I did a lot of forecourt staff training in terms of what the brand stands for, but I also represented the brand in terms of brand activations and consumer interaction. So I traveled around the country a lot. I had the opportunity of going to one of the refineries, the product, the fuel, in Hamburg, in Germany. So I think, it really incorporated everything to do with the Shell brand on the ground.
Yeah.
Again, it was a massive learning experience, because I sat in on the business's strategy sessions.
Yes.
So when it came to marketing strategy, I would be asked questions. The CEO would say, "Well, Phenyo, you are on the ground. What can you tell us? What have you seen? What can we fix? What can we get right?" So it was a massive learning experience, and I was really immersed in the business for that time. Yeah.
One of the other things that stick out in your profile is your interaction with Richard Branson, sharing a stage with him.
Yeah.
One of the most, I don't know whether he's notorious or famous, billionaires.
A little bit of both.
who recently went to space, I believe. How was that experience, and how did that impact your life?
It was humbling, and look, I've shared the stage with some pretty amazing people in my career. I've shared the stage with Robin Sharma. I've shared the stage with Richard Branson. I've shared the stage with Strive Masiyiwa. I've shared the stage with Vusi Tembekwayo, who you know, and in fact I got to know him personally. But I think the Richard Branson experience for me was quite stand out because the event, his time was tight, and the event ultimately started late. I was emceeing the event, and during that time,
Just here at Fairground or something.
yeah, it was held at Fairgrounds, I think, Koditsupo Hall.
Yes,
and
yes.
In the morning, he had been in meetings with BITC and other stakeholders, and he really had a short time for this event. He was going to give a motivational talk, and then he was going to go away to the Okavango for some holiday. So his time was running really tight because the government officials were running late. And the one thing that stood out for me is never at any point did he react in a way that you would expect a globally recognized billionaire, you know. He was very chilled. I mean, obviously he was worried about the time. But one of these people coming, have we heard anything? But he was incredibly chill. He never lost it. He never lost his cool at all. And, you know, he would apologize for asking and explain why he's asking. And the biggest thing was he needs to go fly from here to Maun and catch a helicopter into the camp. And, you know, I didn't know this before he mentioned it. Helicopters shouldn't fly after dark, right? So he said, well, you know, if I don't catch the helicopter, I'm stuck. So I need to catch the helicopter. If it wasn't for the helicopter, we'd be okay. And that for me stood out. And I thought, this man is a billionaire and he's chilled, you know. Who are we then, right? To get our proverbial panties in a bunch, if you will, if things don't go our way. You know, here's Richard Branson, and I think that gave me a massive amount of respect for him. And you know, I'd always, as a person, identified with him as a sort of a role model because I believe I'm a bit of a maverick, a bit of a rebel. Non-conformist, non-conventional, and he is who he is, right? He's exactly those things, and he's been able to garner such great success. But the one thing I don't think had always come out was that humility, and that day I felt the humility of the man, and I thought, wow, you know, this is something that I can carry on in life. Yeah.
So do you feel that you asked him all the questions you needed to ask him, or is there one question that you wish you had asked him?
Man, I didn't get to ask him anything that I wish I would have asked him again because time was tight. So we really got straight into the program. And Lynn, even though there was time to have engaged with him, I've got guests and I'm running an event, and they are also, you know. But I think, one question for Richard Branson. I don't think I would have wanted to ask him a question per se as so much as to say thank you, you know. I'm a fiercely independent person. I'm a rebel, if you will. You know, that's in my nature. And the one thing I would have wanted to say to him was thank you for showing us that the rebels have a place and the rebels can make it. You know, because if you know our culture, as soon as you're a rebel, you know, you try to go this way, it can cause problems, you know. And it had caused problems for me as a kid and as a teenager growing up. So to see him be this person was just amazing for me. Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether anything ever comes out of these visits by top celebrities. It's Richard Branson. Vusi had come here as well, but more recently we had the American gentleman, the American comedian, what's his name?
Oh, Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey.
Harvey was here, yeah.
Yeah, in your view, has anything really come out to impact the economy or to impact the country from these celebrity visits? And you know, it's for me, the short answer is I haven't felt it as an entrepreneur on the ground. But that being said, it doesn't mean that it hasn't had impact. For example, you know, when Steve Harvey was filming his Family Feud Africa, he took, I believe it was 2 filmmakers from Botswana to go and understudy him, right? So the impact is there. And I think one of the mistakes we make is that we expect and he talks a lot about Botswana beef, by the way.
Well, there you go, right? So he's immediately marketing the product for us. But I was going to say, I think we make a big mistake to say that if such a big person comes to the country, we should feel it ripple right across, you know, the length and breadth of our economy. And I think it's a wrong expectation, and this is why people tend to be disappointed. 2 filmmakers understudied him. Right, and that's done amazing things for their careers. These are people I follow on social media, And I see how they've grown as professionals in their field.
Just in the 2 years since he was
The
here.
2 years since he was here. There was an issue about a tender that allegedly is being awarded to him or something. And a lot of people are saying, oh, are we saying young Botswana can't be given this thing? He's got the experience, he's got the network. And there's absolutely nothing in there that says the support crew won't be Botswana. You know,
somebody was complaining about the amount. I think the amount mentioned sounded ridiculous.
It was a large amount, and I don't have the details.
I don't remember anybody from government trying to refute it.
Yeah. But I think what we shouldn't do is we shouldn't be quick to khala. I think we're very quick to criticize without really interrogating issues and seeing where the opportunities are, and two, where the impacts are and where they'll be felt. So yeah, it's a difficult question to say. You know, has there been an impact or has there been a difference? Me, I might not have felt it, but I know people who have felt it, you know. So, yeah, could it be more? I don't know.
All right. I know that you're very determined you're on an upward trajectory. So the question I would want to ask is that what strategies do you have in place to maintain exponential growth going up?
Well, the first one is my business's money is not my money. Okay, that one is a very clear strategy. But I think for me, I follow a simple path to doing my things. I always want to add value to my clients. You know, our mantra, I don't want to call it a tagline or a payoff line because it's something I believe with all my heart. Our payoff line at PMI Media is your impact is our business. Right. So I'm in the business of making sure your business makes an impact when you engage me. Whether you rent a billboard from me, or whether you say to me, give me this for this stakeholder, or whether you say, come and MC my event or whatever. I want to add value and I want to give impact. Right. So that really is the number one thing that I feel carries me, has brought me where I am, and I think will carry every business that I'm involved in. You know, I'm involved in a couple of other businesses outside of PMI Media, and it's exactly the same. I need to add value to whoever my client is, and that I believe.
Yeah, and speaking of exponential growth, what are the targets? For instance, if we're talking 5, 10, 15 years. Yeah. If you had a crystal ball, what did you see?
Okay, well, let me put it this way. For PMI Media, because we're still a very small business, that the target is a revenue-based target, right? I want to see my business on the other side of a few million pula. That's the first thing in terms of revenue.
The second, month or per annum?
Well, per annum for now.
Okay,
you know,
all right.
Per annum for now, because I want to be realistic. You know, we're operating in a time that is really difficult for people who work like I do in the advertising and marketing space. You know, as soon as the economy the first thing that people tend to do is cut the marketing budget. Biggest mistake in the world, but that's what it is. You know, so that's the long term, or the short term rather. And in the long term, I really want PMI Media to be a proper media business. I want it to be a proper media owning business. You know, part of our strategies, we want to increase our footprint of our billboards, for instance. But we're very clear that we cannot compete with the big companies in terms of number of sites across the country. So we're looking at the strategic positioning of sites, right? Because I want to make an impact. I want my clients to find sites, or I want to find sites for my clients that can give maximum exposure, right? Maximum impact. That's what I'm looking for. So that's part of the strategy.
When you say sites, just locations to put up billboards.
Yes, locations to put up billboards. You know real estate. I also operate in property, and location is everything, correct? It's exactly the same in the media space. It's exactly the same in the billboard space. The best location gives the best exposure for your clients, and that's what we want to do. So we're in that trajectory. Another business that I'm involved in is a business that's called Infinite Foods, which I'm incredibly excited about. That's a plant-based business that's basically bringing the very best of globally available plant-based foods to Africa. And my goal for that business is we need to see at least one of our products in every shopping list every month, in every home across the country, right? And then on a larger scale, we definitely want to get into every country. You know, we're fortunate enough that The business is headquartered in South Africa. I'm involved primarily in the Botswana business, but as a business network, as a business ecosystem, we want to see ourselves in every home, on every plate, in every pantry on the continent.
To that point, how do we talk a little bit about the products in terms of what products are you actually marketing and selling
with Infinite Foods.
Yeah,
we've got a very wide array of products. The most well-known is our Beyond Meat products. There's a company called Beyond Meat. It's based in the US, and they sell Beyond Burgers, which are plant-based burger patties. There's Beyond Sausage. There's Beyond Mince, right? Those are the three products that we sell across the continent. And then there's an oat milk brand called Oatly. That one is from Sweden. We also have a plant-based dairy that's made primarily from cashew, from a company in California called Miyoko's Creamery. There's a Canadian company called Just. Their big product is an egg product. So there's Just Egg. There's a company out of India called Good Dot. So we do vegetarian chicken, or vegican, that they call it. And the whole idea really is to bring in substitutes or alternatives to meat and dairy protein. And the reason is twofold. One, and most paramount, is health reasons for us as people, but also for environmental sustainability reasons. A lot of the products, if not all of the products that we sell, cholesterol free, right? A lot of our products have no soy, MSG free, so they're very healthy for you. And what we're saying, particularly in the African context, and this is something I had to tell to my business partner, who's American, was in Botswana, the number one thing you need to tell me is how I can not go vegan, but maybe include these products in my entire portfolio of food, if I can call it that.
Without eliminating meat.
Without eliminating meat, because you won't. I've told her I'm not going to stop eating meat. We've got a cattle farm that sells meat across the world through BMC. So but I think it's incredibly important, particularly in the times that we live in, to understand the health impacts of the food we eat. I love meat. I love red meat. But it's not the best thing for me. So I need to include...
And it's also a matter of how often you consume it.
Exactly.
The biggest problem is consuming it twice a day or something.
Or 3 times a day, right?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so how cool would it be to have a meat-like alternative to add to your shopping basket and to add to your diet that is cholesterol-free, that is made for your health, that is made, thinking about the environment as well. Yeah.
So, about Infinite Foods, is it coming to a point where you may have to grow some of the ingredients here locally? Is there any plan in that regard?
Yes, there is a plan, but it's not necessarily because it's coming to a point. The idea is that there's a lot of agriculturally able, or a lot of able agricultural entrepreneurs in Africa that produce the ingredients that are being used already to make these products. So as a business that said, okay, we want to make Africa our home, and we want to help African consumers, but also African businesses, there is indeed a concerted effort to see how we can bring African agripreneurs into the supply chain for some of our suppliers.
So you could get to a point where you are, shall I say, manufacturing or putting together this stuff locally?
Look, that's the plan.
Within the next 10 years, for instance?
That's the plan. The plan is if we could get to a point where we have manufacturing under license, right? For now, though, the goal is first to say, let's get these farmers supplying to the factories in the US and in the EU and in India. And once we've built capacity and trust, then we can come in and say, but actually, guys, we can set up a factory or 2 or 3 or 4, one in each region, possibly, to serve each market, East, West, South, North Africa. Yeah. So there is a definite concerted effort, and that is part of the long-term strategic plan. But the first thing to get is let's build the trust that African products are of a good enough quality.
I wonder whether you've considered AFTA, the Africa Free Trade Agreement,
that's
and to see how you can maybe take advantage of some of the protocols there?
That is a tool that we're exploring. That is definitely a tool that we're exploring. But I mean, because we're selling, the idea is to export raw materials primarily to America. The AGOA Act is the one that we're really looking at right now. And once we get into, yes, we can maybe manufacture under license or to increase our distribution.
I heard AGOA will come to an end at some point.
It's still in place. It was just recently revamped. There's in Botswana there's a new team that's handling the Botswana business interest for AGOA. So it has still some life in it. So it's definitely an avenue that we want to use to get product.
So at the moment, where do we find the products of Infinite Foods? Where do we find them locally?
The products are available. We're currently working on a retail partnership with some of the retailers. It's been a big challenge, to be honest, on that end, because a lot of the retailers that we have locally are South African retailers, and they haven't wanted to pick it up for whatever reason. But as an example, we have a retail agreement with Woolworths in South Africa, but for whatever reason they're reluctant to bring the product into Woolworths in Botswana.
Something you have to work on.
And that is something we're working on. So it hasn't been an easy transition into the Botswana market because of distribution channel availability, but also because of the consumer needing a little bit more education than maybe, say, a more developed market like in a South Africa.
Do you think you may be forced to set up your own retail distribution outlet?
We're working on that as we speak in partnership with another brand. So these are the things that we're looking at in the short term. We're looking to get ourselves registered with one of the retailers. We're actually at a point where we're going to sign the terms of trade very shortly. Another one that we're working on is having our own store that can help push the cause in partnership with another health-focused brand from Botswana. So these are things we're definitely working on, and these are things that will be rolling out in the next few months.
One of the biggest challenges is for entrepreneurs is confidence. And I remember Warren Buffett reading somewhere that he said one of the most important skills is public speaking and opening up. What did you say to entrepreneurs in terms of cultivating confidence, of which you have tons and tons, and developing it? Because to me, it's an essential skill for success.
I think confidence is great, but like you say, Warren Buffett said, you can be confident and really suck at communicating. And I don't want to say speaking. I'm good at speaking, but I suck at writing. But thankfully, I'm articulate enough that I can communicate adequately and effectively using speech. So I think as an entrepreneur, one of the things you really want to do is build your communication skills. Because as an entrepreneur, your biggest job is to sell. You can't sell effectively if you can't communicate effectively. So that's the one thing. If you want to be an entrepreneur, work on your communication skills. Speak well, write well, communicate well. And then when it comes to confidence, I think confidence is great if you're on a run of good fortune. But runs of good fortune end, right? And then if you're not confident, it's going to be tough to get back up. So I think to build confidence, I'd say entrepreneurs need to know themselves. We need to have a long, good look at ourselves.
Is that the true north?
That's the true north. If you don't know who you are and what you stand for, you'll fall for anything, right? And one of the things that we were taught when we were on the Mandela Washington Fellowship is that when things are going well for you, it's easy to be distracted. Everybody wants a piece of you because you're successful. If you don't know your true north, and this is how this man put it, on your path, there'll always be shiny little things on the ground. That's the attention, that's the attention. And if you stop to pick up every little thing or to give your attention to every little shiny object, you won't move, right? So you need to know who you are, what you want, and what you stand for, to be able to say, thank you for the opportunity, but this doesn't fit what I'm trying to do. Thank you for this, but unfortunately I can't be a part of it, right? That's the first step to building the confidence. And once you start saying no to people who you wouldn't even think you could say no to, because you know where you want to go, then that confidence will build. And I think then the resilience and the grit and the support, kind of falls into place. But if I was to say the two most important things, learn yourself, learn to communicate. Yeah.
Well, I've heard some people say that you may need to join debating groups. I mean, we have groups, JCI International,
Toastmasters
and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
Join it. Do it.
Have you been a part of those?
In high school, I was fortunate enough to be exposed to public speaking and debating. I've worked with JCI Botswana, in the past. I haven't joined Toastmasters. I
happen to be their patron, by the way.
JCI. Is it? Yeah. So I say, look, if you have an opportunity and you really want to learn, Toastmasters is a fantastic platform to teach you how to speak, to teach you how to defend your position when you're speaking. Because, if you're speaking and you're talking to a banker or an investor, you're going to be challenged. And you need to know your stuff. You need to know what you need to say and how you need to say it.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm a very big fan of organizations like that. There are other courses also that are available online that can teach you how to speak. So yeah, definitely.
So apart from working on confidence, identifying the true north, etc., any additional advice for upcoming entrepreneurs?
I think the most important thing, and again, these are things that I've already shared with you, and that's because those are the things that have stood out for me the most. Number one, the business's money is not your money, right? The second thing is know yourself and what you want to do, and I think from knowing yourself, you'll have that resolve. I think one of the things that's really put us in a tough spot as entrepreneurs is this buzzword innovation, right? We want to be innovative. You want to bring the coolest, the one thing that nobody's done. But the truth is, it's 2021. What exists that nobody hasn't done right now, right? So for me,
you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel.
You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, and that's something we need to get comfortable with as entrepreneurs, right? You need to look at what you want to do. I always say, it's not the what that's most important, but the how when it comes to how you do your stuff. Because anybody and everybody sells anything and everything. We saw it, 10 years ago when the telcos started moving into banking and the banking started moving into telcos and everybody does insurance, everybody does telco, everybody does banking, and everybody does financial management. But it's the how that then becomes important, right? So if you're sitting there as an entrepreneur and you're like, I want to do this, but somebody else is doing it, do it. Figure out how to do it better. Elon Musk is big on this. How do I do it better? How do I do it cheaper? How do I do it in a more valuable way to my client, right? And this is why, people say, Moroka, you are very expensive when it comes. I'm easily, without a doubt, probably the most expensive MC in the country. I make no apologies for it because I know my how, right?
You know your value.
I know my value, and I know the value that I add to my clients. In fact, there was a client some years back who said to me, you're expensive. We haggled a bit, and I said, okay, let's do this. Let's agree on this number, okay? And agree, I'll do the event. If you feel I wasn't worth what I quoted, I'll do it for free. You don't owe me anything. If I was worth what I quoted, you pay me.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know what that client said at the end of the event? You were worth it. And I got paid. Wow. The only events I've ultimately
takes guts to say that.
Because I knew what I had to offer. Because I knew my how, right? And that's what we need to get to.
Because what if the client says, nah.
It's okay. and I think that's another lesson for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs need to learn to get comfortable with no. Because in this journey, you're going to go and see 100 customers and 90 of them are going to say no to you. Get comfortable with hearing and saying no.
Because your benefit comes from the 10.
Because your benefit comes from the 10.
And once you can't get to the 10 without going through the 90.
You can't get to the 10 without going through the 90. Something I read recently is, as an entrepreneur, you mustn't be afraid to hear no. Because every no gets you one no closer to the yes, right?
Which is correct.
Which is correct. So celebrate the no's, because basic rule of sales. You see 10 customers, only one will buy from you, right? So if you've heard 5 no's, you're 4 no's away. The next one's going to be a 10 or a yes. Yeah.
Growth management, risk management. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Growth management or risk management? I think risk management, because you manage the risks and then, you know.
What's your take on it? How do you go about managing that business?
Wow. It's a tricky one, you know. But I think there's so many different risks that you need to deal with, but the biggest one is the environmental risk right now, thanks to COVID. That's something that you really cannot do without. But I think the best way to manage any type of risk is to come back to what I've spoken about the how, right? How do I manage the COVID risk? How do I change the way I've been engaging with my clients without losing the traction I've done? So I think one of the most important risk management strategies is agility. You need to be agile. You need to be quick to pivot. You need to be quick to respond. You know, so you need to be agile, but I think you also need to be alert. You need to listen to what your clients are saying, because the client might not necessarily say to you, "Yeah, Phenyo, we're not thinking about this. Maybe go this way. How about this?" But you need to be able to read your client to manage and see where you need to move. And I think the biggest risk right now that every entrepreneur is faced with is the risk of loss of opportunity. You know, every one of us wants to close that deal. So in managing that risk, you need to be agile, but you also need to be alert. And that goes to engaging with your customers and building a relationship. I think the best risk management strategy in the world is relationship building, right? If you know your clients, you know their cues. If you know your client, even when your client is not responding, you know what they're saying to you, right? And that's how I look at it, you know.
Yes.
There are certain tactics, the things to do, you know, but as an overarching principle, as a strategy, as a guiding light, is build relationships. Because I think if you build relationships with your clients, it doesn't matter what happens in the environment, you'll still be able to.
I'm happy with that response. Let's go to growth management.
Yeah.
How do you manage growth?
One of the best ways is to do great work. For me, it's that simple. Do great work, because there still isn't a better form of advertising for you or your business than word of mouth. Yeah. If you do great business for client A, he or she will tell client B, and that's how your business grows, because your business grows one client at a time, one purchase order at a time. So for me, it's just those two things. Do great work, build great relationships. And the two work together, right?
Yeah.
If you have great work, your client's going to love you, and it's going to improve your relationship.
That's
and
true.
It's going to give you another opportunity to do great work for your client as well. Yeah. So
what did you say to some skeptics out there who might say that there's not money anymore in media? Can you convince a youngster coming from school that this is still a profession or an area of economic activity to throw themselves into?
People who say there's no money in media don't understand the business of media, right? And this is how I'm going to break it down. Media is the plural for medium, right? So medium. So in the world of communication and advertising, what is a medium? A medium is a thing that a teller of a message uses to get the message to the audience, right? That's what media are. Media is not a thing. Media is a plural of things. For example, a radio station is a medium, okay? Your cell phone is a medium in promotional merchandise. And I don't know how many people see this. If you want this glass branded with your brand, this is a medium, because you are communicating a message about your business to the person you want to give this glass. I get.
Yes.
So if you understand media from that extent, then you can see that the opportunities to make money are virtually endless. Right. So if you say there's no money in media, you're looking at media in a very myopic way. Understand that in the media business, your job is to use those platforms. Platform, medium, interchangeable words for the same thing. Use those platforms to help your clients get the message across. You see. And this is for me where I say at PMI Media, we want to add that value and help you make impact.
Yeah.
If you come to me and you say, Phenyo, I want you to give me 100 cups. I'm going to say, okay, why? What's your objective? Why do you want 100 cups? No, I want to give them to my clients. Okay. Are your clients going to care about that cup? How much impact are you going to make with that cup? And remember, impact, I'm not talking loud, proud, big, bold.
Yeah.
Impact, I'm talking leaving a lasting impression. Is the cup the best way to reach that client? Because the client is your audience. Or could it be something different? You see?
It's a very interesting way of approaching it.
Yeah.
I'm just here, my brain cells just
So
just burning from what you've just said.
If you understand what media is and what media are and what they do, then you can't say there's no money in media. Yeah.
Obviously, we aspire to be at the highest level. We look at the Tyler Perrys of this world, what they've done with media, the Oprah Winfreys of this world, with the Bloombergs of this world. Do you see in Africa or even in Botswana us getting to that level? Do we see Phenyo Moroka turning into something that big? Or is it possible to think along those lines?
The answer is yes, and the second answer is that is where I'm going. Right. I am a media entrepreneur. I want to build a media owning business, a media owning conglomerate. And this is where again I say, if you understand the business of media, then you know what a media is. A billboard company is a media owner because the medium is the billboard, right? A radio station, the people who own that radio station are media owners because the medium is their station. The TV station owners. So for me as a media entrepreneur, that is definitely where I want to go. I want to own and be invested in a whole host of different media and build a media conglomerate. If you look at what's happening, particularly in the US, a lot of these companies are investing in media that they don't understand, right? But for example, telcos are really going into the media space, and you know, they invest in like communication companies and satellite companies because they want to play in media. But I think the biggest mistake is that you look at media and you say media is the platform that gives me the entertainment. You know, they want to invest in studios, they want to invest in streaming services, they want to invest in these, and these are all great things. But again, if you don't understand the business of media, it's going to fail. It doesn't matter.
What I'm asking you is Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry's, are they replicatable here in Botswana or in this region?
Yes. They are very replicatable. Maybe not in Botswana because we're a small market with a small audience, but in Africa, absolutely.
And I'm sure that you'll be among the first to give it the best effort you can.
Well, I don't know if I'll be the first. You know, there's amazing people. There's a guy I look up to in South Africa called Given Mkari. You know, Given Mkari is one of the reasons why I wanted to go and do radio the way I do it. They own Capricorn FM, they own Power FM. There's an advertising agency called the Jupiter Drawing Room that they owned many years ago already. You know, so those guys are doing it. You know, on that level. There's a gentleman called Chris Kirubi in Nigeria, and he owns primarily broadcast media houses. You know, so big media conglomerates already exist on the continent. Whether do I believe that the kind of media conglomerate that you're talking about as filmmakers, can it be done here? Absolutely. Because remember, those guys are big because they didn't let the boundaries of the United States limit them. The nice thing about media and that kind of media is that with the technology that's available today,
you're not limited by your borders.
You're not limited by your borders. So there's absolutely no reason why a media business from here cannot reach global scale.
So which raises another issue before we close that topic, mentorship.
Yeah.
Have you identified specific mentors that are guiding you or assisting you wherever possible?
I do have, but I think in the area where I operate, a lot of the mentors are away from my reach for the most part. So I gained my mentorship, particularly in terms of growing a media business and aspiring to be a big media owner, I look at other media owners and I read about the business moves that they're making, and I read about some of the mistakes that other people are making. So I use the content that I consume, the articles that I read, to mentor me and show me the way, because unfortunately I can't get to a Richard Branson, or I can't get to an Oprah Winfrey or a Tyler Perry, except to see what they put on their social media channels and to read, to set up alerts about news about them. So you've got alerts that are set up. If I hear Oprah, my alert will alert me. If I hear Tyler Perry, my alert will alert me. And I look at the people I aspire to. I read about what they're doing. I read their books to gain that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This is the part of the show when you get to hammer me with a question, sir, of your choosing.
Oh, question of my choosing. I think as a media entrepreneur and a person interested in content, and I'm sure this is a question you've got a lot of times, why this platform this way?
Well, I'm one of those guys who believe in ready, fire, aim. In other words, you get ready and you get started.
I completely identify with that.
And then you figure it out. So at the beginning, when, for instance, look at this very podcast, when I started, it was just me, and it was me alone. But somehow, beginning of last year, I decided to invite people, and that format seemed to excite me more. So it's a matter of really trial and error, especially error. We already have the precedent of, Meet the Overcomers show in Duma FM, which I started 13 years ago. So I could see the one-on-one Q&A format was working. But the challenge was to see how it works in this space, in this way.
When it's not live.
Yeah. At that time, I was too excited about getting it off the ground, and I did not think too much about having it monetized and bringing in a return. So the thinking was that, is this something I enjoy? Do I enjoy interacting with other, entrepreneurs and learning from them? And can I, in the process, also benefit somebody else? And then it was trial and error, and then it grew from there to the point where we're adding 10 to 15, subscribers a day, that sort of thing. So it's developing a life of its own.
Yeah.
So so that is the real reason, to get this kind of positive feedback, to have the great Phenyo Moroka willing to take an hour of his valuable time talking to me. That to me is reward in itself. Then I can share and learn from you at the same time.
Right.
So that is really the blunt answer, the direct answer to that.
So I've got a part two to this question, as we tend to do when we're interviewing.
Yeah.
Doing all of these things that you're doing, now as a businessman, there's Meet the Overcomers, there's the Nuggets of Wisdom, there's the property businesses and all the other things that you do. At the end of it all, when God calls you back home, what do you want your tombstone to read?
That's the toughest question I've ever been asked to answer. And to me, it's an exercise in futility, because I don't really have the power to tell whoever is there
what to write.
And they can write what they choose.
Right?
But we can dream. I would like to really, I really like the taglines that I have already, which is to enthuse, to energize, to inspire, and to empower. So if somebody can say that I did one or all of these four things, and I did it to at least one individual on this planet, I think my purpose will have been served.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I hope I've answered the question.
Perfectly.
Now, this is the time that you've answered my questions very well, by the way. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
This is now your chance to motivate a viewer there. There might be somebody who needs to be inspired, to be motivated, as a way of a takeaway from this discussion. Have a discussion with them.
Wow. Yeah. First of all, thank you, Mogobe, for having me here. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I think the one thing I could say to anybody who wants to achieve anything that may be watching this out there is, don't be afraid to be you, because that's the be all and end all of it. That's where it all starts. Be you, learn you, know you, and then take that you to the rest of the world. Yeah.
Great. Now, how do they get in touch with you? How do they take advantage of your services? Especially
right.
your two companies. How do they reach you?
Whew, yeah, that's a lot of a lot of emails. On social media, it's Phenyo Moroka. My Facebook page, my Twitter page, my Instagram page is Phenyo Moroka. If you want to email me, phenyo@pmimedia.co.bw, phenyo@phenyomoroka.com, phenyo@infinitefoods.com.
Okay.
Those are the ways you can get in touch.
There's no WhatsApp or anything like that?
Yeah, I prefer to be contacted via email so that I don't have my number out there as much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is there any reason why you believe the viewer should subscribe to Mogobe Nuggets, or why you have subscribed to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom?
Because learning is a lifelong journey, and there's no better place to learn than to listen to the stories of the people who have done it, who have made the mistakes, and who continue to do it. For me, it's that simple.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've been such a wonderful guest.
Thank you.
And you know, sorry about the delay earlier, the malfunction, but thank you very much. You've done fantastically. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
All right.